Um, I'm Mark Simon, VP of Strategy at Celigo, and excited here to present to you today our panel conversation on AI and e-commerce operations. This is going to be all about real life lessons from the front lines from two of our customers that have been out there building projects, leveraging Celigo to automate their businesses, and really looking forward to share this with you. We'll start off with Andrea here and go through everybody on the panel.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me today. My name is Andrea Burnham. I'm the Vice President of Technology for the Icebox Cool Stuff. We are a promotional apparel and uniform company, so we make swag and uniforms for a lot of businesses, and excited to talk about some of the really fun stuff we're doing.
Fantastic. Brett.
Yeah, hello, I'm Brett. I work at the Icebox as well as one of the web developers. I was mainly involved with working with Celigo to get our first AI integrated flow, working with our Zendesk platform on our side at Icebox. So I mainly the technical side of our stuff.
Fantastic, thank you, Brett. And finally, Jason.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jason Fuller. I'm the IT director at Auveco. We specialize in clips and fasteners, predominantly. Not very exciting topic in the automotive industry, but we've utilized AI pretty extensively now, both across e-commerce and many of our, I guess, back office operations.
Excellent. Very good. Now kind of continuing with our show, well, before we'll kind of a couple more things that we'd like to kind of help tee up the conversation before we go ahead and jump in and start our dialogue. One of the key things here, we all know, I think anyone in business has been aware of the changing landscape. And when I think of segments of business that have been changing over the last, gosh, we can go back 10 plus years, or just one or two. No segment has really changed more than the segment around commerce and online commerce. Just a level of change, and now with AI, this pace of change is only increasing. And we're also seeing that AI is changing customer expectations. We've already seen it change that pattern of origination with that buying pattern, but customer expectations have been elevating consistently and at an ever increasing rate. And AI is only adding more fuel to that fire, meaning that the adopters of AI technologies and companies of all sizes that are able to adopt those and positively impact the customer experience are creating more and more differentiation from their competitors. So those out there that are slower are starting to feel that impact from growth slowing, customer lifetime value is decreasing, et cetera. Whereas those others are often using AI and automation technologies as a key differentiator. And we see this within our own customer base substantially. The adopters, the leaders, the ones that are thinking automation first and leveraging these tools are providing a better customer experience and achieving more revenue growth with fewer resources. So I want to ask a little bit of a poll here to get everything started. So where are you most interested in using AI in your operations? Looks like we've got some votes coming in here. Still coming in, awesome. Well, it looks like, okay, well, we can definitely see a pattern here for sure. It looks like most of you are looking at this from a system and data integration standpoint. Well, that makes a lot of sense from the Celigo perspective here. as well as maybe the next highest here is in customer service automation. And that's certainly reflected in what we see out there in industry. Supply chain or fulfillment automation up there as well at over 15%. Excellent. Okay. Well, that's great, and this really echoes what we see in our conversations daily with customers and prospects as well. So with that, shifting things over a little bit, I want to bring things to the panel here, and kind of just start things off. Andrea, I'll start off with you, and with the first question to everybody here is, how did you determine where to bring in AI initially to improve your operations and your accelerate the business at Icebox?
For us, it was actually a lot of conversations with Celigo. We attended the roadshow when it came here to Atlanta. We've attended some of the AI events to kind of start thinking about some of our use cases. And we decided to begin ours. It kind of bridges that operational as well as customer service and system integration. And we have actually, with Brett on my team, built out 2 agents that receive our customer service requests, and some of the simple use cases are tracking information from our customers as well as requests for copies of invoices. And we've been able to connect our ERP system to our stores and our Zendesk platform to gather that information, to draft an email response to the customer. We leave it in a draft status so that we can have our customer care team validate the information. And it's been really exciting. We're taking, a 5 to 6 minute process and distilling it down to, 25 to 30 seconds for our customer service agents. So speed to the customer is big, and freeing up time to work on much more complex tasks for our customer service team is where we're really seeing the benefits.
Wow, that's quite a metric. So you've taken something that took 5 or 6 minutes. Now it's 30 seconds or less. That's more than a 10x decrease. You're reducing that by 10 times. That's really amazing. But one thing that I think is interesting there, probably worth discussing, is are you fully automating the process? Is this something where you've taken manual customer interaction and now just shifted it to, say, a chatbot, or is there a layer in between?
So there is the Celigo layer. We do have it connected to, we're using ChatGPT, which is, again, something I also like about Celigo in this process is every SaaS provider, it's table stakes to have an AI agent, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best solution, and it doesn't talk to any other systems, and we can't work in silos. That's not going to be effective information. So using Celigo to connect ChatGPT to our Zendesk instance, our NetSuite instance, and our Shopify stores, we're able to gather so much more data across systems to provide much better solutions to our customers. So again, it's creating a layer, and there's still some action required from our team, but again, greatly reduced, and we've got visibility across all of our systems using the integration.
Yeah, I think that's really the key thing, that you've adopted a process where you're accelerating your customer service team, but they're still involved with that process, correct? So they're still reviewing. It's kind of like supercharging your team, but you still have that human touch in there, and you haven't replaced the people. You've just made them faster and better at their job, essentially, right?
Exactly. We can get back to our customers much more quickly, which is what we want to do. In today's age of chatbots and AI agents, people are expecting that speed. So us being able to do more and get back to our customers quicker is definitely improving their experience.
Excellent. And you mentioned multiple systems feeding into this. How do you think that's impacted the fact that you have multiple systems and maybe not just a single system feeding that agent? I mean, what we've often seen with customers, sometimes they adopt these siloed solutions, and maybe they have a an AI accelerator, but it maybe only sees their customer service tickets. I know as you mentioned, you've integrated across multiple systems that all have customer data. What do you think the difference for you in being able to integrate more broadly across the organization has been for the success of the project?
I think it lets us actually solution for more of the tickets or the requests that come in. If we were only connected to one system, there's often data that exists in a different system that we wouldn't be able to action on. So I think if you don't integrate across all of your platforms, you're leaving something on the table. You're leaving opportunity to service the customer on the table. And we want to make sure that wherever the data lives, that we're able to access it and return that.
Fantastic. That's excellent. Well, I want to bring in Brett's perspective to this as being very, very close to the action as well, hands-on involved in this process. Brett, what was your experience through this project?
Well, first off, I have to give a lot of accolades to Celigo's implementation team from the start. I've done the supplemental courses with the Launchpad, getting started and understanding how the platform works. But from start to finish, being able to utilize all of the tools in Celigo, from establishing those connections from each data point through it all, was like very seamless. The engineer specifically that I was working with was also very hands-on with explaining and giving the technical rundowns, because at first it's a lot of steps. You see the entire chart board along with syntax naming for different titlings across the steps. It was it gave the pieces to understand how you need to approach, and because I think a lot of the knowing how to fit the AI part into your flows is the hard part. And they're like, well, here's where the brain of this needs to exist, and knowing where you're supposed to slot it. It's at a key integral filtering point, but it's knowing that that's the part that was most enlightening to me in that.
Excellent. Now, Brett, do you think of the solution that you put in place as an AI solution, or as an integration solution, or is it how do you really think about and talk about that internally?
I think this is definitely an AI solution. I think one of the hardest parts about, at least from our point of view, I also worked extensively in our customer service team before I moved to the technical aspect of our company, is the customers typically don't know, at least from an internal process, how we provide the information that is required, whether it be invoice tracking in this case or other more complex tasks. The AI is able to, once prompted and with the framework, take these requests and be able to start these more complex decision makings. And to the point about the data points, it's able to understand the AI using the the start these pathways so it's kind of both. The AI solves the discovery part, and then Celigo helps and finalizes the automation implementation of hitting those data points to return what information is necessary.
Perfect. Yeah, that's kind of how the seamless. Integration is solid integration is the foundation for a good AI solution. So the two are. It's critical to have both those components for success. Exactly. Excellent. Well, that's a great start to hearing about what you've put into place on the Icebox side. I want to switch over and Jason, give you an opportunity to discuss what you've done and your journey along the way.
Yeah, ours is a little different. We haven't been, I'll say, customer service centric from that perspective to begin with. For us, we've got a very flat management structure and organizational structure above the warehouse operations and distribution operations. So for us, it was more about how do we do more with the same. So what we focused on, we started very small. We started focusing on manual processes today that the CFO, COO, financial controllers, some of those sorts of people spend, I'll say in hindsight, extraordinary amounts of time consolidating data sets, etc. So, we run multiple systems, a little different, but similar. We have NetSuite, obviously. We have Stock IQ, and we have FastCore as our WMS. So, very disparate systems from a data integration perspective that traditionally the business would manually manipulate data to produce, I guess, a decision point, right? The data required for a decision point. So our focus has been really on using Celigo and using a number of AI tools, fit for purpose is probably the best way to put it, to help make those decisions much quicker. So how do we get the data in the right hands in the timely fashion so they can make a decision, as opposed to spend too much time doing the manual manipulation of data and interpretation. So again, we started very similar, I guess, to Andrea. I know we had some other conversations, but we started very small to begin with as a proof of concept, prove the value from that perspective. We're a little different. We haven't referred to it as an AI solution. It's truly a business process solution. We just happen to use AI along the way. If you asked, perhaps this is bad for Celigo, but if you asked 80 or 90% of our team, they wouldn't know Celigo. They wouldn't know what Celigo does, but it's integral for the architecture beneath to give them the data to make the decisions. So I think from that perspective, that's how I guess implement it, very business centric.
Delivering those finalized functioning business solutions and keeping that infrastructure, so to speak, that integration and automation and AI infrastructure separate from the end business user, sounds like. Yeah,
and we're truly converting hours of man hours each week from a whether it be accounts receivable perspective, a back order perspective, a forecasting, etc., and transitioning that to quite frankly a minute or maybe two, right, from that. And then the decisions can then be about how do we overcome the business challenge, or what actions do we take, as opposed to spending a majority of the time working out the data. And I think that's certainly changed it. We've been a victim of our own success. We had to push the business on AI to look for those low-hanging fruit. I think my pipeline now is about 27 different opportunities within the business. So we're now working on how do we enable the business within guardrails from a security perspective, a compliance perspective, and a data integrity. But we're starting to work closely with the business as to how do they self-serve more or come to us with a more complete business requirement as opposed to a whiteboard sketch.
But it sounds like there's been a significant shift, though, in that at first you had to push on the businesses, on the departments, and now they're coming. They're saying, "Hey, can you do this? Can you automate this?" That there's definitely been a shift in their mindset as they've seen success, right?
Yeah, and we're even using the Celigo agent module, which is I know in beta at the moment. We've started to use that to help us develop the business requirements to start to vet and identify return on investment. So we've got a number of different agents built to help, articulate the business case so that it becomes more achievable, because we're a very small IT team here. We're not unique, I guess, to a lot of medium-sized enterprises. There's a handful of us. So it's really about how fast can we deliver a result. So we have a bit of a mandate, an internal mandate that if we can't deliver something in 2 days, we need to rethink how we do it. And then becomes a continual improvement. So, our first product that we developed a few months back now is a very different product, far more complicated, far more proactive with regards to back orders. And we now track shipments from overseas, etc. We start to do doc scheduling, etc., all from a single app, which historically was, 6 different spreadsheets and different processes and teams and Slack channels and all those sorts of things. It's now a consolidated interface. So, again, I think it's exciting. I think it's, the key message I tell everybody is, just keep pushing the envelope. Just look for those wins. They're everywhere. We try not to overcomplicate it. I used the term the other day, we try not to bore the ocean. For us, it's truly about how do we build the momentum, get the cadence, and success will breed success.
Fantastic. That's a great story. And what really jumped out for me is the fact that, you said a couple days that you're not delivering the initial version of these solutions in weeks or months, but you're at this point you're delivering them in a couple days, right?
In 1 or 2 occasions we've done it in 2 to 3 hours of work, right? So minimum viable product, does this achieve the desired outcome if we develop it fully out? And if so, great, we keep going. If not, then we bench it. If AI is not capable, or we don't have the data set, or the quality is not there, we will bench it. We have a backlog of opportunities, and then we'll revisit on a monthly basis.
That's awesome. That kind of speed and driving value that quickly. That's absolutely fantastic. Now, you touched on a little bit of some of the solutions that you've implemented. You might kind of sharing a little bit more detail about what problems you've solved with these automation solutions, leveraging AI, and just give the audience a little more of kind of what you've done to give them a sense of the possibilities out there.
Yeah, we're a little different. So clips and fasteners, we deliver it in 3 different ways. So we have bulk, we have kits, and we have assemblies, right? So like including private labels. So for us, we see a back order. NetSuite in its native inventory will say that a particular product's out of stock. Now, in fact, it will be out of stock in the baseline of the bulk item that we would typically make, the end product, but it may exist out on the floor in a different format, whether it be in a box for a different customer, whether it be in a different kit, those sorts of things. So for us, it was really about how do we improve our on-time delivery and item fulfillment, right, as key drivers. And that was, I guess, instilled in a handful of people on the warehouse floor who have been here for 20 plus years. They knew that for a particular product, they could go and get it and pull it off the widget. Now, the challenge there is that we're owned by a private equity. We're on a target of double in 5 years. That becomes, it's not scalable, right, to rely on the same 3 or 4 people, from a month-to-month basis. So we've now enabled the warehouse director literally on a dashboard every day can see the orders, see when it's due to be delivered in terms of to the customer, when the base product is due from a shipment perspective. We get the latest updates every day from our contracted 3PL partners. And then from that perspective, they can make a decision. We're even now starting to estimate the labor involved in repackaging and whether the return on investment is there. And that's all AI generated. So it's pulling it from 3 different systems. It's presenting it back in a single interface. And now we've trained it to start to make recommendations. So, this morning there was 27 SKUs that he was able to pull off the floor. He pulled, I think, 18 of the 27 in the end because of the return on investment was there, and they were from some key strategic customers as an example. And then probably the next one is accounts receivable dashboard. That's a recent one for us. At the minute, our financial controller would break it down and then assign it to customer service. That's now fully automated. So we do an upload from NetSuite. It comes through the Celigo interface. We have customer service reps assigned, along with account managers assigned for strategic accounts. And they now have a dashboard that they can see in real time and insert notes, et cetera, that writes back to NetSuite based on actions taken, commitments for payment, those sorts of things. So again, in that scenario, our financial controller was spending 4 to 6 hours a week doing it. It now does it automatically, and he does a review to make sure that the data is consistent. We've got no erroneous data, but that'll even disappear over time once confidence is there. As I said, we implemented it 2 weeks ago, right? So we are truly moving really quick. And they've come back today with some enhancements they'd like to see for one of our subsidiaries that we own and implementing it there. So again, it's not rocket science from my perspective. It's truly just sitting down with a business, understanding a business problem, and how can we use technology as it is now, particularly with AI, but also with Celigo as the interface between the different systems to give a great business outcome really quickly.
Kind That's a great story, and it's awesome to hear the detail, a little bit more of that detail on those solutions. I think it helps to kind of visualize that. And I think everybody can listen to those and say, okay, I maybe see how I can apply this to my business, because there's a lot of companies facing very similar problems to that. That's awesome. I want to move on here a little bit and go on to our next question here for the group, which is, what is the foundation that you need to have in place to build AI securely? And we'll go back to you, Andrea, and let you start.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think you need to have your established platforms. I think you do need a trusted partner that, again, we feel very confident in the platforms, the SaaS platforms that we're using, that they are secure. I think the second piece to that Jason was hitting on as well is that I I think the key thing that we as technology leaders bring to the table is understanding how to make the AI technology work for us. It's understanding how to prompt it, at what level, understanding the business requirements of what we're trying to solve. I think there's a lot of nuance there. I think there can be this idea that the agents are magic, but if you don't talk to them the right way, if you don't structure, the configuration and the way you're questioning them appropriately, you're not going to get the desired result. So I think that's where we're really focusing on a lot of some of our testing and building is how do we talk to the technology? How do we talk to the agents to make it perform the way we want it to?
Now, that's really interesting. You mentioned that focusing on how you're talking to the technology and the agents, and are you finding that is a very specialized skill that you're having to go outside for? Or is that something you're able to develop along the way as you do this, and you're organically building those skills internally?
I think we are organically building those skills. I do think that there are people who, I think, you have the coders sitting in a room that are just going to execute exactly what you give them. But I think this is where it really becomes important to have people who think critically and understand business process, because you need to think about what the end result is in order to be able to relay that. Just like with any technology, you're taking something, as Jason was saying, taking something from somebody's brain, and how do I systematize that? How do I have that decision tree in some form of technology? So I definitely think it is a learned skill set, and even learning across different AI platforms, understanding what works best for a specific use case. I mean, we do a lot of creative things, and ChatGPT isn't as great at it. But Gemini does a really good job at artwork. So that's part of our process and journey too, is we're not only learning how to work with the technology, we're also determining which specific solutions work for which use case. And, again, having something like a Celigo, we can connect multiple solutions to our different systems as well. So we're able to get whatever the gold standard is for the business case, we're able to connect that and use it, and not be beholden to one thing that does one thing really well and four things kind of okay.
Fantastic. That's great. And I think there's something that really resonated with me there that you said, which was, and my takeaway was that the more these things change, the more the technology changes, the more the principles stay the same. So a lot of us have been at this for over 20, I personally over 20 years, and yet this foundation of executing on a process automation project, even though it's rapidly changing, leveraging these AI tools, the principles of that are still there. You can just go so much faster and produce so much more quickly. So I love that. Brett, any comments on that about the foundation you need to move forward here? I think you're muted.
As going with, like, I know Andrea talked about it beforehand, talking to Celigo about how to utilize AI. Foundational use of it and like how you approach it is definitely something that you learn. I know that at least with attending those first couple things, that once you start seeing how you can program, like how you can break down tasks and utilize AI in those ways, I think that's what kind of jumpstarts it. And it's that. And in that way, you kind of also share it with other people too. It grows as you do. So what started off as us like watching, or like Ronan was the one who was talking about at your company at the time, like an invoice thing goes like, we could send invoices over our text chat, and then sending that. And then now other business people are starting to go like, well, if they could send invoices, we could send invoices to something else. So like, they're picking those pieces, and how it compounds is, I think, also interesting.
Fantastic. That's great. Now, I know you've been kind of hands-on in some of this stuff very much, Brett. Speaking from a foundational standpoint, how much did it help based on the fact that you had already been working with Celigo? You'd already been working with us for a substantial time to automate and integrate your core systems, automate those processes already. That there was some of that this pre-work from an automation standpoint that had already been done. How did that impact your ability to then launch into the AI solution in a kind of both fast but also governed, secure manner?
Yes. I do think, like, and then touching on security, a lot of the connections and points at which you're enabling, like, these connections and reading are there is, like, depending on which source you're connecting to, there typically is a lot of conditional permissions on what you're reading. I know that most of our AI influence that we have here has no writing capability to really mess with production level data. That is just like an aside for security. I think that with Celigo being able to kind of confirm those parameters with also, like, we utilized your basic connection to Shopify to enable those connections. Being able to tailor those allows a greater level of, like, comfort, knowing that, like, okay, I'm going to read a massive amount of customer data and that there's no update features that are just, like, on the side, and, you know, these agentic things continue to grow and they might go, I'm just going to update that or change something, that you're able to partition and put it on a guardrails, and then as confidence grows, expand them. But from the Celigo thing, Celigo is a puzzle piece type system. Being able to utilize it for the basic integration as it started with, it was just another one of those puzzle pieces. All you had, now that you knew how to build those flows, you just needed the AI. It plugs it right in, and as your confidence and comfort grows, I felt like utilizing the system, it just primed me to be able to just move that next piece into that puzzle to make it grow.
Fantastic. Great story. I love hearing that progression. Finally, over to you, Jason, on this. You know, what was how did you look at the foundation? What do you look at as those fundamental pieces to have in place?
Yeah, similarly, we had sort of guardrails with respect to security, whether it be multi-factor authentication, leveraging the SaaS elements and those sorts of things. And also, as Brett said, the right to production databases was important. I think also too, we spend a significant amount of effort to validate data to make sure that, you know, you aren't getting the hallucination issues, that you're using RAG type queries. Again, that's about how you use AI to a great extent. The other key element I will talk to really quickly is we talk about failing fast. Right. This is a great opportunity. We set expectations with the business. We talk about progress, not perfection, right? From that perspective, and we build upon those sort of base, you know, building bricks, if you like, and then gradually get there. It truly is an iterative approach. We don't take a blanket business requirement, go away into a dark little room, you know, as we are as IT people, and code up and come back with a great solution. It truly is, you know, how fast we can come back to you with a working program, have you give us feedback in real time, and be responsive to that. And there, you know, I talk a lot about there is no ego around what we deliver. If you think it hasn't met the criteria for success, then we have a meaningful conversation about that. But again, it's not like the traditional days, if you like. I come from an SAP background and various others where you would spend 6 months working on a program to find out that you missed the point of the business requirement, right? The ability here is within a day, 2 days, 3 days, you're getting real-time feedback from a CFO or from the C-suite as to whether it's delivering, or the sales team, etc. So I think it's far more iterative. I think it's a great way to grow talent. I think it's difficult to go hire. I can tell you, I've been talking to recruiters recently. It's not as easy as to go out and just hire off the street, but it is a great way to grow talent and set expectations. You're not expecting perfection. You know, it's a learning curve for everybody. And, you know, if any of us that listen to the, you know, everyday podcasts, everyday I have podcasts and other podcasts, there's hundreds of different releases. It seems to be weekly now, right? In terms of feature set. So it's, don't get too dazzled by the shiny, bright new toys. It's really about how does this realize a business outcome? And that's what we keep coming back to. That's our North Star, if you like, on a day-to-day basis.
Excellent. That's really helpful. It's so I think it's very useful to hear that if you're looking at starting and you don't know where to start on this, the reassurance that it doesn't have to be a 6-month project, that you can work iteratively and produce something of value in a matter of days and get that feedback and really just I think if I'm thinking about it, trying to think about it from a customer brand perspective out there, or as a manufacturer, it'd be, oh, just get started, just go bite something off small and get going, and then make it perfect later. That's awesome. Okay, well, let's as we continue here, we've got another question that I want to make sure we get to, which is, how are you seeing AI transform the e-commerce landscape out there? What's the impact that you're seeing from your perspective as business leaders? So we'll go back and start with you again, Andrea.
I think that, first of all, the speed to service our customers continues to be big. I think they're expecting it now. So it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. I'm also seeing within some of our tools that the agents are getting better at allowing us as a company to self-serve. I think that with the understanding of how the systems work, and especially as you're on a platform like a SaaS platform that's constantly changing and new feature sets, and their agents are continuing to get better, that again, I think we're going to be able to self-serve a lot more and not be as dependent on outside resources, which again is going to allow us to move faster. It's going to allow us to test and change things, and not have these, big, long, multi-month projects, that we can make these small improvements over time and just continue to get better and just own our ecosystem much more, which I think is always desirable because it's much more predictable that way. We know our bandwidth, we know the projects that we have going on, and so we're able to slot those into our roadmap and again continue to deliver a better and better product to our customers.
Excellent, fantastic. Over to you, Brett.
I'll speak a lot to the just the tools that are accessible to create we spin up a lot of white label stores, but the functionality to create something that is responsive, good looking, and works is truly limited. We have, you try on clothes via AI inside the web stores, with some of these additional apps, like the piecemeal ability to create web stuff is growing, and I think that it's raising the bar for expectation of you could do this, and it's almost makes white label kind of become more customizable, or expect more the level of accessibility for what you can provide to people, that I think is fueled by these tools that are presented.
Great, really good point there. It's kind of exciting if you're in it to see it. It's almost hard to choose from. There's so many cool tools, and it's changing so quickly. In 1 month, it's one, and then something else jumps ahead, and yeah, it's very exciting that way. Really, really good point. And then finally, to wrap us up, Jason.
Sorry, I think to Andrea's point, I think it's speed. I think the expectation of the customer base has grown over time, and I think the insight that they expect you to have, in particular around your product offering, about tracking and all those sorts of things, is significantly different. A 48-hour turnaround, perhaps 5 years ago, was acceptable. Today, 45 minutes probably isn't ideal, right, from a customer perspective. And I think we're all spoiled with, I'll say, the Amazon experience, right, of being able to see where everything is at all times. That is certainly the benchmark, right, from an expectation perspective. So I think that's the key differentiator at the moment.
Great point. Your customers, yeah, we see that across, right, going from this incredibly high bar for around customer expectation is moved over. It's not just direct to consumer, it's in B2B as well, and that's really changed things. And some legacy companies have a long ways to go, but there's a lot of great tools. You just have to get started. So really great point there. Excellent. Well, excellent perspectives from the panel here. We're going to keep our program moving and kind of moving to wrap up here for a few minutes, and then we'll jump into some questions from the audience. So one of the key things here to share is that we've worked and with our customer base. And one of the things that was really stood out for us as a key finding, and the MIT technology review and the insights from that that we have, is that 90% of firms with successful AI deployments are using an integration platform. And that was one of the things that we really took away as foundational, and it's a core part of Celigo's point of view, and it has been that without an integration platform, you don't have good automated processes, and you don't have the resulting quality data then to feed into an AI solution. So you have to have that solid foundation. Otherwise, you're building AI solutions on quicksand, essentially. And if you feed garbage into these AI solutions, you're just going to get garbage out. And I see Brett, Jason nodding a little bit here. I know they're very familiar with it, because working on these solutions, you find out really quickly, what works and what doesn't. It can veer off if you don't have that quality data you're feeding in. And if you think about, okay, where do I get started? Sometimes just that core process automation is going to move you in the direction of being an AI enabled and an AI automated business as well. You have to start that journey somewhere. One of the other insights as well is that this enterprise-wide AI across an organization, it really requires integrations with multiple data sources and applications. It came up earlier when we were talking to Andrea about that and the solution that they put into place. But this is something that's really key. We see all the vendors out there, every SaaS vendor that you have, I'm sure, has been working and has deployed certain types of additional AI features and add-ons, and some of those can be great, but many of those have a shortcoming. And what we see is that the realization now coming into industry that 90% of executives are saying that they're realizing that successful AI solutions need to have more than just that one data source. They need to have multiple data sources. It needs to span multiple departments. You can't have siloed data AI solutions. It needs to be across those multiple sources of truth in the organization. And then finally, 95% of these respondents that were actually deploying successful AI projects, they indicated that in those successful ones with 3 or more data sources, they were using an integration platform at its core. They wouldn't have got there without an integration platform to facilitate it. And finally, we have a final poll that we'll go through quickly. Love to hear from you. What is your biggest AI pain point? Awesome. We've got a few votes coming in. Lack of governance, definitely hear that. No ecosystem orchestration. It looks fairly distributed. Unclear where to prioritize AI efforts is taking the lead, and that's the one I hear maybe the most often. So I hope some of what you heard from Jason, Andrea, and Brett helpful to give you the confidence to move forward, to start somewhere, pick an area of the business and begin your journey. And finally, here as we wrap up, at Celigo, we're very confident that we know that we've built a leading platform to operationalize AI and automate your full enterprise. We provide you the connectivity across the full spectrum of applications, processes, data sources that you need. We bring you the AI-ready solutions with between MCP servers, agents, and very soon to be released, fully automated AI automated flow building. Bringing all of these solutions, embedded LLMs within our platform, these accelerators to build the workflows and then standardize your data and make that ready for use. And we also have the use cases. We have the experience with these customers to put this to work and operationalize this across a full set of use cases. The group here shared some of that. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many things out there. Really, at this point, you can ask yourself, what's manual, what's broken in the business, and we have the foundation of experience to look at that and bring it to you and show you a way that we can help solve that problem and continue your automation journey on the Celigo platform. I want to open it up for a little bit of Q&A here. Move over. Kind of look at here. Let's see. Mentioning, there's a question, different models get version updated all the time. How do you evaluate and protect your integration from that? Jason, any perspective on that? You've built a lot of different solutions, and this sounds like something you've likely encountered.
Yeah, we've actually developed automated test scripts. So the beauty of Celigo is you can, to Andrea's point, you can flick between the different ones, right, from that perspective. So we actually have developed test scripts that does confidence scoring and weighted outcomes. So we're actually running it through on a regular basis, even for if 5.4 was better than 5.2 from a ChatGPT perspective. Is it worth the jump? Because obviously there's a cost increase too per token. So we typically do it like that. And then we also will do, for new requirements, we will test it against a couple of the key models, if you like, to see if there is a significant difference. We are not married to ChatGPT or anything else. It's truly fit for purpose, and due to the complexity and the type of data we're processing. But yeah, we've developed those. AI helped us to develop those scripts to test itself, ironically.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jason, I'm going to come back to you with this one. Or get you queued up. Somebody asked, why should I use Celigo instead of agent builder capability of an LLM for AI-based automation?
It's something we're evaluating. Obviously, tool, the agent builder, is still a new tool within Celigo, as I understand. But it's the ability that it's got the integration there. You're not having to build, say, an API call into Celigo, the end system. It's also the auditability of Celigo in terms of being able to track all the transactions. To Brett's point earlier, it's about the security of writing to system versus building custom code, as an example. So from that perspective, that's why we've chosen thus far, certainly, to go with Celigo.
Excellent. That's exactly the way I was thinking about it as well, is that so much of this is centered around data movement and that process automation. That's not the direction that an LLM is coming from. And so an agent builder centered around an LLM or within an LLM is not going to have those mature capabilities around automation that you need around integration and process automation that you need to really be successful in a business environment. Those things that you listed, auditability, the governance, all of these, that proven track record around automating those processes. That's why really, when we really look at this, and that's why Celigo has invested in this, is because we see that the iPaaS is the foundation to successful agent and that business automation of the future.
Also, upgrade resilience. So as NetSuite does an upgrade, Celigo is usually on the forefront in terms of those upgrades prior to you having to develop custom code.
Great point. Excellent. All right. Well, we've got 1 minute left, and we'll be happy to reach out to. I know there's some additional questions here we didn't get to. Those that put their names in, we'll be happy to reach out and answer those questions. But to wrap this up, we're happy to continue the conversation. We'd love to talk to you about your AI automation, your process automation, your integration initiatives, and how we can help you accomplish what we've seen here today. So you can click on the button at the top right. You can scan this QR code, and please reach out. We'd love to work with you and provide you a free consultation session to discuss your automation needs.